in my mind, at least, what I experienced a bit is, for example, like if I'm learning a new language or for the language that I have learned and I would be in the country. For instance, I was in Amsterdam again, and my Dutch is getting a lot better now. And the funny thing is that once I landed, right, because I had done a lot of listening, a lot of speaking, a little not so much speaking, but a lot of listening, a lot of reading. And when I was there, though, at the beginning, I was just a little bit nervous. It was just like, and I was just getting, and I was thinking as well. These thoughts would come to my head as I was trying to speak. Is this person gonna? What are they gonna? How well do they think that I speak?
Yeah.
How am I gonna forget everything that I learned right now?
Right.
So get a little bit nervous at the beginning. But the interesting thing is that the more you try, right, the more
you surprise yourself.
That's true. And then
you surprise yourself. You do better than you think.
Absolutely.
And and then of course we know where we have difficulties. Like on my YouTube channel, a person who's studying Portuguese, okay, he said he can't get vir and ver, like to come and to see.
Okay.
He can't conjugate them. He's always worried. You have to, I think, you recognize where your weaknesses are. So when you're reading or when you're listening, you got to try to pay attention to those. Because I myself, I can look at Portuguese conjugations. It makes no impact on me. I mean, I can see it, I think, but in fact, I can't remember it. It has very little benefit. Whereas if I start to, I find sometimes between vir and ver, the different conjugations, very difficult to remember.
Yeah.
And it is.
I was actually writing a blog post in Portuguese.
Right.
And I was struggling to remember. I had to really go to conjugation tables in Portuguese, and it's my mother language.
Well, that's right.
And it's crazy.
So it doesn't matter in the end, but there are things you can do, I think, to improve your chances of doing well. And that is when you're listening and reading, you want to notice those areas where you know you're weak. So you read. I underline in books if I'm reading in a foreign language. Those areas where I have trouble, I underline them. Or if I'm working on link, I'll highlight them and save them. You got to start forcing the brain to notice these areas. Because there are people who are very fluent and always make the same mistakes.
True.
And like every German person is going to say, I have been living in Vancouver since many years. They won't say for many years, they'll say since many years. Because that's how the word since works in German.
Yeah. Or also the difference between when or if.
Right.
And sometimes they'll say, and sometimes they're incredibly fluent.
Right.
You're right. And they speak extremely well, but
right.
they will fall back on the German way of saying it in English.
So that's just to say that it takes a long time for the brain to get used to these different things.
True.
So therefore, to me, A, you have to expose yourself, engage with the language, and B, try to notice these things. And there's no instant. The other thing too is, I'm sure you've noticed this, you'll make a mistake in a particular conjugation or construction. You'll make a mistake one time, the next time you won't make the mistake, and then the third time you make the mistake again. That's how it is. It's not perfect.
Absolutely. And I think that, especially with, and I know a lot of Brazilian speakers too, that they have like a great vocab in English.
Right.
They've been learning English for several years or even for just a limited amount of time. But they just have the feeling that, they get stuck when they're speaking. And I think really it boils down a lot to what you said before about the pride.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, I want to sound, I don't want to embarrass myself.
Right.
But I think that a really good message that we can send here is that, it's not, you won't embarrass yourself, right? And it's just about really, really trying to step back and relax a bit and just, and I think that a lot of it is just subconscious as well, right? It's
and the advantage of say a Brazilian person learning English is most English speakers don't speak any other language. True. So it's not like you going to Holland speaking Dutch. They have a tendency to switch to English. True. The minute they identify that you're a foreigner, they'll switch to English. If you go to the United States, no one's going to switch to Portuguese because nobody speaks Portuguese. So then it just comes down to rare, yeah. So it really just comes down to communication.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, if you have that, it comes down to sort of a meaningful situation. If you're in a situation where you have to communicate in English, you'll communicate.